So Chair Russell, the meeting is now live.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 17th, 2022 meeting of the Northwest Community Council. It is now 6:02 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting to order. As is standard with the virtual meetings, I'd like to do an AV check just at the very beginning of the meeting. So let's start with District 1 and Councillor Daigle-Gammon. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, colleagues, staff, and anyone from the public who's here. Let's hope we don't lose power.
Agreed very much, or lose power again as it may be.
Yes.
District 13, Deputy Mayor Lovelace.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. Oh, look at that. Councillor Timothy has just joined us. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't lose anybody else here tonight.
Hopefully, I agree. Councillor Blackburn, District 14.
Hi there. Good evening, everybody. The power is starting to flicker out here in Beaverbank, but we're praying to the power gods that we can sit through the next 3 hours with electricity. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. And Councillor Outfit, District 16.
I am here, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Good evening to all. Good night to be indoors.
It is a good night to be indoors. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of December 13th, 2021. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle-Gammon. Seconder?
Second.
Second by Deputy Mayor. Any errors or omissions? Not seeing any. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great, that motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Over to the clerk. Is there anything for this evening?
Chair Russell, there's no additions or deletions to tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. And to members of the committee. Okay, not seeing any. Can I have a motion to approve the order of business as presented? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Blackburn. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Great, we have an agenda. Next items are business arising out of the minutes is none. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. And not seeing any. Okay. Motions of reconsideration is none. Motions of rescission is none. Consideration of deferred business is none. Notices of tabled matters is none. And we have a public hearing, item 10.1.1. This is case 22218, development agreement for 32 Dutch Settlement Road in Lance. And I'm looking for Claire Toos.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, Claire. Do we have a presentation from you this evening?
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Good stuff. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Right now I don't have the ability to share, but
Andrea, are you able to help with that? Or Simon? Am I mistaken? Did we just lose Claire?
It looks that way.
Yes, I think we did.
Sorry, that's just me. I promoted her to an attendee rather than provide her the presentation sharing. Sorry about that, everyone.
No, super. Not a problem. Thank you, Simon. Claire, are you now able to share your screen?
I'm back, but it does say host disabled participant screen sharing when I click share screen. I did share it before the meeting started successfully. Oh, it's working now.
Beautiful.
Okay, could I get some confirmation as to whether that's showing on everyone's screen?
We can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. All right, hello Northwest Community Council. My name is Claire Toos and I'm a planner with the Rural Policy and Planning Applications team here at HRM. Today I will be presenting case 22218, which is an application for a development agreement. The applicant for this proposal is EDM Planning Services Limited on behalf of AIM Elmsdale Incorporated. The subject property is 32 Dutch Settlement Road in Lance, and the proposal is to enter into a development agreement to permit the construction of a new building. This will serve the purpose of consolidating two existing buildings on the property, which are not adequate for supporting the existing salvage yard use. This property has had an active salvage yard use in operation since before the adoption of the Musquodoboit Valley Dutch Settlement Land Use Bylaw in 1996. Because salvage yard uses are not permitted as of right through the Land Use Bylaw, any expansion to the use, such as new buildings, requires consideration of Community Council through the development agreement planning process. On the left, circled in red, is the subject property located in the community of Lance. The image on the right is a closer view of the property. The top left image here is the subject site as seen from the west on Dutch Settlement Road, and the bottom right image is as seen from the east. This property is serviced with on-site well and septic. It is zoned MU mixed use under the Musquodoboit Valley Dutch Settlement Land Use Bylaw and designated MU mixed use under the Musquodoboit Valley Dutch Settlement Municipal Planning Strategy. The general intent of the mixed use designation in this area is to support and encourage development of the rural economy. Due to the nature of salvage yards with respect to safety, noise, smell, appearance, and potential impact on local ecosystems, the designation indicates that some controls are necessary if the use is to be permitted. The enabling policy, MU6, requires that Council consider aspects such as screening, location of outdoor storage, proximity to watercourses, hours of operation, general maintenance of the operation, potential impacts on traffic, as well as on local residents. Staff have incorporated these controls into the development agreement, but the existing operation has already demonstrated compliance with many of the proposed requirements. The primary change on this site is the construction of a new building. This application has followed the standard planning process for development agreements. We received a complete application with all the required documents, including site plans, building elevations, and a traffic impact study, which staff reviewed in detail. We held a public information meeting as well as provided notice of the application through a mail out, after which staff developed a staff report and a development agreement, which was given first reading at Northwest Community Council on December 13th, 2021. And now we have reached the public hearing stage of the process. After Council has made a motion on the application, there will be a 14-day appeal period, after which time, if approved by Council, the applicant may apply for the necessary permits. To provide a bit more information about the proposal, the two buildings circled in red are proposed to be demolished. Currently, the building nearest Dutch Settlement Road is a house, and the other building serves as the retail outlet for the UPIC component of the operation. This is a bird's eye view of the property where you can see the two buildings to be demolished and replaced outlined in the dashed red line. This is a simplified version of Schedule B2 from the development agreement. The dark gray rectangle is the proposed building, which will consolidate the uses carried out in the other buildings, which are to be demolished. This includes the devolution of vehicles, the retail component of the operation, the staff space, office, and washrooms. The approximate area of the proposed new building is 10,000 square feet. The light gray rectangle on the left, bottom left corner, represents the footprint of the existing Quonset hut building, which is to remain and to be used for storage. The development agreement allows for a total of two main buildings and a total of 30,000 square feet of floor area, total for all buildings on site. These are the proposed elevations for the new main building. But the development agreement does allow for some changes. As mentioned, the development agreement regulates the gross floor area and the maximum number of main buildings on the site, as well as the general location of the buildings, but otherwise the building is subject to the main building requirements of the MU mixed use zone of the land use bylaw with respect to height and lot coverage. The enabling policy is policy MU6, which requires Council to consider the following in rendering their decision on a development agreement for a salvage yard use. Materials associated with the salvage yard use, proximity of outdoor storage to nearby watercourses, proximity to community facility uses or residentially zoned properties, hours of operation, general maintenance of the operation, impacts on traffic volume and circulation, and potential impacts to nearby residential uses. The level of engagement completed for this application was consultation achieved through a mail-out notification as well as an in-person public information meeting, which was held on August 7th, 2019. 101 property owners were notified and 10 members of the public attended the public information meeting. At the meeting, there was a question of clarification about which buildings were to be replaced, which are the two that I outlined before. And since the meeting, I've received one phone call in the last week from a local property owner looking for clarification on the maximum allowable height for the new building, which will be 35 feet as per the mixed use zone. Otherwise, staff have not received any other phone calls or emails about the proposal. Since June of 2019, the web page has received 565 web page views, 432 of which were unique views, and the average time spent on the web page is approximately 2 minutes. The key aspects of the proposed development are as follows. For land use, the agreement allows for the continuation of the salvage yard use, a maximum of 2 main buildings, of which the floor area shall not exceed 30,000 square feet, and requires that outdoor storage not be located within any required front or side yard. For screening and buffering, the agreement requires that any portions of the property which are used for the disassembly, drainage, and storage of vehicles be screened with fencing. The fencing shall have a minimum height of 6 feet and shall include privacy slats. Landscaping shall generally conform with the landscaping shown on schedules B1 and B2 of the development agreement, and at the time of permitting, a landscape plan prepared by a landscape architect will be required. The hours of operation for this use shall be 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. daily. Subsequent to any municipal approval for the salvage yard uses through the development agreement process, an operating permit from the province of Nova Scotia is required. To date, this operation has obtained all necessary provincial approvals. To address traffic volume and circulation, a traffic impact study was submitted as part of this application. As the salvage yard use is existing, no impacts to traffic volume and circulation are anticipated. To further address any potential impacts to traffic and safety, the Nova Scotia Department of Public Works has required that there only be one driveway access to the subject property off of Dutch Settlement Road. This has been included in the agreement as a requirement and is shown on Schedule B2. Finally, the developer is required to maintain and keep in good repair all portions of the operation. A non-substantive amendment is a change to the agreement which could be made without a formal public hearing. Instead, Community Council could authorize this change by resolution. As proposed, non-substantive amendments within this agreement include the following: changes to landscaping requirements, the granting of an extension to the date of commencement of construction, the length of time for the completion of the development, an increase to the number of units permitted for outdoor display of automotive sales, changes to the location of buildings as generally shown on Schedules B1 and B2, provided the buildings are sited in accordance with the requirements of the Musquodoboit Valley Dutch Settlement Land Use Bylaw. Staff recommend that Northwest Community Council approve the proposed development agreement as set out in Attachment A of the staff report dated December 13th, 2021. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm now available for any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Claire, for that presentation. I'm looking in the chat to see if there are any questions of clarification for Claire. If there is, go ahead, Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Claire, thank you for the presentation. One question of clarification was on the hours of operation from 9 until 7. If I understand correctly, though, if there is an accident on the highway or something like that and they need to go and clear, and if that's outside of those hours, is that where the provincial permit comes in?
So what's through the chair to the councillor, the development agreement has a section about hours of operation, which allows for any nighttime vehicles that need to be brought over have a special place that they can be disposed of for the time being until the next morning when staff can properly deal with the vehicles. So that's shown on one of the schedules. And then for hours of operation, the current operation is operating 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. So there's an extra hour there for in case they need to be flexible.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions of clarification? I don't see any, so thank you. I should introduce the public hearing. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today for this virtual public hearing. The order of events for this virtual hearing would generally be the same as with a normal presentation. There would be a staff presentation, and then we'd give the applicant an opportunity to present and finish with comments from the public. And I have a speakers list for that. As a reminder to all speakers and those watching from home, the deadline to register as a speaker was 4:30 p.m. on the business day prior to the hearing, which was Friday, January 14th. And there is one speaker registered for this public hearing. So over to the legislative assistant. Have we received any correspondence for this public hearing or for this application?
Chair Russell, no correspondence was received for item 10.1.1.
Okay, thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing and invite the applicant to address council. Margot Young and Dwayne Brewster. I see Dwayne and I see Margot. Are you there? We have a screen shared, but I don't hear from Margot or Dwayne yet.
Hi, this is Margot. Can you hear me?
Hi, Margot. I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Okay, the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes to present.
Thank you. I'm here as the applicant. My name is Margot Young. I work with EDM Planning Services, and we are the applicant on the file. Dwayne Brewer is the operator of the facility, and he wants to just say a few words as well, and he's available to answer any questions or clarification you might have about the operation. Could I have the next slide, please? So this is a development agreement application, and the purpose is
Margot, I hate to say it, I'm going to ask you to hold on for a minute. I see that Councillor Tim Houston is not with us. Tim Houston, forgive me. Tim Outfit is not with us. Wrong Tim.
I see you.
I'm here. I'm waving.
You're there? Okay, I just didn't see you in the list. Sorry.
Tim Houston's not here. He wears a blue jacket too, but.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Margot. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So this is a development agreement application, as Claire presented to you. The purpose is to replace the building that you see in this picture. There are approximately 19 to 20 people who work on this site. And as you can tell from the number of people in the building, we need a new building on the site. Next slide, please. AIM is a company that specializes in the recovery of scrap materials and recycling. The primary product is automobile recycling. And obviously that makes up a large portion of the metals, but other metals are recycled at this facility as well. EDM works for AIM throughout Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. They're active throughout Atlantic Canada, Quebec, and Ontario. They're a Canadian company based in Quebec. Their business plan is to purchase existing facilities and yards. They then take on the task of improving them functionally and aesthetically, bringing them up into regulatory compliance. This site is also a Kenny U-Pole, and the U-Pole is an interesting component which sees that the automobiles, once they have been decontaminated, and the tires removed, are then placed up on blocks and they're inventoried. And this allows many members of the public and also folks who repair automobiles to come and get parts at this facility as well. Next slide, please. We are located at the little red bubble there, very near the Hants boundary at 32 Dutch Settlement Road. The north is straight up in this slide, and so the neighbors to the southeast are Dexter Construction. They own a very large parcel to the southeast of us, and then the field to the southwest, a very large field, is Elmsdale Landscaping, and that is one of their sod fields. The property is approximately 4.66 acres, and about 9 acres of the site is used for the salvage yard activities. Next slide, please. So this particular request is to allow AIM to build a much larger building on the site. The purpose of the building is to create a better experience for both staff and for clients who come to the site. The intent is to bring the workplace up to modern standards, which will include new washrooms, break rooms, and the like that staff would needs to have. Also to improve accessibility for all members of the public and to improve security and the ability to store materials. Also, many of the activities that are currently taking place outdoors will be able to take place inside now. Again, that improves things from a staff comfort perspective, but it also is much better for the environment for many of these activities be taken place in a controlled indoor environment. Next slide, please. Claire touched on the relevant policy. I wanted to emphasize that this is an existing salvage yard that has been in existence for quite a long time. Mr. Brewer, who is here as well, purchased it and has been operating it for approximately the last 20 years or so. As Claire indicated, the current plan does require a development agreement for this new building. The new building brings the yard into alignment with the goals of the policy, in particular the bolded policy that I'm showing you there, which is important that we try to move indoors and screen as many of these salvage activities as it is possible to do. The policy also asks for some consideration of traffic, and I wanted to note that a study was undertaken and it is on the webpage for people to see. The study noted that there is actually very minimal impact on your peak volumes because really just the staff would be on your roads during peak times. The visitors to the site would come throughout the day, so they're not impacting any of the commuting volumes. Also, the sight lines and the driveway, it's an old salvage yard, but the sight lines for the driveway do meet modern standards for turning movements. I'd also wanted to highlight that all the provincial operating approvals are up to date, and this is in full compliance with provincial policies at this time. Next slide, please. So since 2015, AIM has been working on this site to bring the yard into compliance. To date, there have been renovations to the buildings. The site has been fully graded and new gravels have been placed down. Ditches were placed along the side and a new stormwater retention pond was built at the back of the site for any drainage to make sure stormwater was managed. There has been, AIM has innovative fluid recovery technology, and that has been implemented at this site as well. And there has been fencing and screening installed. Next slide, please. So I have a few precedent images I'm going to show you. These are buildings that AIM operates in other locations. As Claire indicated, when we first made the application back in 2019, we had a building that we believed AIM would be building there. And now there is a new prototype building, and this site might be one of the locations for that prototype, and therefore the agreement does allow for some modifications to the building depending upon that new prototype, allowing for that new prototype, provided it meets the other requirements of your bylaws and policies. And so I'm just going to show you instead a few images of some of the other buildings and the kind of facility that's intended for this location. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is a site plan that is in our development agreement, with the red outline being the property line. You can see the majority of the fenced area, which is the black dashed line, and the small triangular stormwater pond at the bottom. The fenced area is the Kenny U Pool area where the automobiles are. The new building is up at the top, and so you can see the majority of the activity for recycling is up at the top of the site. Next slide, please. Claire also showed this detailed site plan, so I won't say very much more about it, except to say that the new building location is very important to create a much better public aesthetic. The building is oriented to screen the rest of the salvage yard activities behind it. Next slide, please. I wanted to thank you for your time today. As I indicated, Mr. Brewer is here as well with me and happy to answer any questions you might have about the recycling facility and the operations. I'm happy to answer any questions of clarification. And I also wanted to thank the clerk very much for her help and support technically in this presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much for that presentation. Wondering if there are any questions of clarification from members of council. Go ahead, Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Oh, where are you? Margot. For the presentation. You mentioned that there might be a slight difference because of a new prototype. Is that for, oh, there you are. Hi again. Is that for the potential for maybe recycling of e-batteries for e-vehicles, electric vehicles?
Yes, AIM is working on a new building prototype. They are an innovator in all forms of recycling. This new building would have additional storage facilities. The e-batteries are very heavy as well, so removing them is going to become an issue. So they're working on a prototype, and depending on the timing of the construction, this might be the newer building style.
How many of those exist in Nova Scotia right now?
None that I know of.
Ah, great. And my other question would be and I can't pronounce this word, I know I can't, the Kuzna hut?
Quonset hut.
Quonset hut.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So that's going to remain. And what use will that have? Will that take up some? I was on the site and visited, but I think if my memory serves, that was going to take some materials, take them from outside and inside this hut. Again, that would help with some of the aesthetics of the site.
Yes, through the chair to you, Councillor. The intention is to use that building for storage, and so some of the materials you saw on site, it is preferable for those to be stored under cover, and it will be used as a storage facility.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And are there any other questions of clarification? Okay, not seeing any. I'd like to open or continue with the public hearing, and any member of the public who has registered with the clerk's office on this matter will be given 5 minutes to speak. When I call your name, you may unmute your mic and begin speaking. Each speaker is asked to begin by stating your name and the name of the community in which you reside for the record. Please keep your comments respectful, on topic, and directed to me. Once you've finished your comments and answering any questions of clarification, please leave the Zoom meeting and watch the rest of the meeting using the webcast. There is only one speaker registered for the public hearing tonight, and that is Cecil Dixon. Cecil, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Good stuff. Hello, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. On behalf of myself, I'd like to thank council and staff for allowing the time for me to speak on behalf. My name is Cecil Dixon. I live in Enfield, Nova Scotia here, and being from this area for a long time and have seen the place where Kenny Upol is located and the improvements that Dwayne and his team have done there. When we first moved up in this area 40-some years ago, it was vehicles in a mud field. Now it's a nice looking property. He's gone from mud to gravel, several new buildings, a paved parking lot, as well as some inside concrete area. The property is fenced, it's lighted at night. They have come a long way. Now they want to make more improvements, a 10,000 square foot building, and improve things, hopefully get some water issues addressed. It's hard to believe that they currently have limited access to municipal water, but that's an issue that would probably come up at a later date. As I said, I'm saying Kenny Upol is a really big supporter of firefighters and the auto extrication world, which many of you may not be aware of. And this is mainly of East Hants and of Halifax, but he also would support any other fire department when possible or if asked. What they do is they supply and pick up vehicles drain the fluids, remove the batteries, deliver and pick up when the teams have finished training on them. And the key and amazing thing here with Dwayne and the men is he does not charge fire departments for this service, which is really awesome. They have supplied vehicles for local fire departments to host auto extrication events on at least 5 occasions in the Halifax, East Hants area. At these events, firefighters get to test the latest of extrication tools, life-saving tools. Most people know them as the jaws of life, but there are many kinds of them. We get to practice new techniques on his cars. And our aim here is, as volunteers and as careers, is to save lives and try to reduce injuries to people in car accidents. Page 2. In 2019, I was approached by a Halifax firefighter, Eugene Jessam, who is out of Musquodoboit area, to assist and host the 2019 American Vehicle Rescue Challenge. This, I know you can't see me, this was hosted by Halifax Regional Fire. So I was a part of the organizing committee with them. The event was held at the Dartmouth Crossing, August 20th to 23rd. 9 teams attended this. Burlington, Ontario, Enfield, Nova Scotia, Hagerman, New York, Hamilton, Ontario, Island, Barrington Passage, Oakville, Ontario, Woods Harbor, Nova Scotia, and 2 Halifax teams, 1 more career and 1 career and volunteer. What Kenny Upel did do for this, most places where we get cars, we pay between $200 to $300 a car. This event had 9 teams. We require 3 vehicles per team to compete. So for a total of 27 vehicles, and at a cost of, I averaged them at $250 each for a total of $6,750. Not here, Dwayne and his crew delivered and picked up the cars for no fee. Cost of the cars did not include staff time, time allocated, time for the scale house on the airport hill, as well as the one in Enfield. These challenges allow firefighters to learn new skills and learn about new technologies supported by them. Many of these firefighters have gone on to train other volunteer firefighters, other firefighters, stuff like this. A perk for these firefighters is they get to attend other events.
Cecil, I'm going to
Yes,
interrupt
sir.
for a second and just let you know that you've got 1 minute left.
In closing, Kenny Upel, and their team support firefighters anytime, often on short notice, and as a representative of all firefighters, I ask council to support him, and he has taken that time to fix up the area. That's pretty well it. Sorry.
It's all good. You came in under the 5 minutes, so thank you very much.
Trying to rush here at the end.
Oh, not a problem. And it sounds like you're in support of it.
Oh, definitely.
I am going to open the floor to members of council who have any questions of clarification. And if you do have a question, just let me know somehow. And go ahead, Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you so much. I just want to say hi to Cecil, former counselor for East Hants. And I just want to say just really appreciate you coming here tonight to speak on his behalf, and hope you're doing well, Cecil. Haven't seen you in a long time.
No, I thank you very much for the compliments. I'm doing well, and I'm not involved in politics for a while yet, but I may not have given it up completely.
Awesome.
Okay, it was good to have that question of clarification.
Oh, the clarity is always good.
It is good. It is good. Okay, and I don't see any other councillors with any questions for Cecil, so thank you very much.
Thank you, and hopefully you support it.
Thank you. Now, Margot or Dwayne, I would like to give either of you the opportunity to respond or support anything that, or sorry, respond to anything that Cecil has said. So you have 5 minutes if you'd like to proceed.
I have nothing more to add at this time, except to ask you please for your support.
At this point, I'd like to unmute myself. Thank you very much, Margot. At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing. So I'm wondering if we could have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close, sir.
Deputy Mayor and Seconder,
Second,
Councillor Daigle Gammon. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. So at this point, I'd like to provide staff with an opportunity to address the comments from the public. Claire? Is there anything that you would like to add to what has been provided?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that was a great example of how the development impacts the community. So thank you, Cecil.
Okay, thank you very much. And what are the wishes of council?
you can put the motion on the floor, sir, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Thank you. I move that the Northwest Community Council 1 approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment A of the November 3rd, 2021 staff report, and 2, require the development agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is latter. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising here under shall be at an end. I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Outfit. Councillor Daigle Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I would like to tell you that I've been out and I've visited the salvage yard, and in my previous job, I had an occasion on a special project to travel across Canada and look at electronic recycling depots. A lot of them were attached to salvage yards. And I would say that to go out here and look at this site, it is so well maintained. It is really, I was amazed at how clean it was. You know, the vehicles are drained of fluid, the tires are off, and then it's up off of the ground. It's fenced, it's clean for a salvage yard. And, you know, this development agreement is only going to make it better for the employees that need to work there. Also gives them the potential to be leading in their field should the new prototype be on their site. So I really look forward to seeing what they're going to be able to do. And I hope that you are able to support this development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daigle Gammon. Are there any other speakers to the motion?
Question.
Question has been called. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Great, that motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. The next item on the agenda is item 10.2.1, case 23496, appeal of variance refusal for 10 Shipyard Road in Bedford. And thank you for joining us today for a virtual appeal of variance refusal hearing. The hearing will start with a staff presentation, then the appellant will have an opportunity to present. As this is an appeal of variance refusal hearing, the only parties able to speak are the property owner who appealed the refusal of the variance application and any individuals who own property within the notification area. As a reminder, in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. on the business day prior to the hearing, which was Friday, January 14th. There are no registered speakers for this appeal hearing. So for Andrea, has any correspondence been received?
Yes, Chair Russell, correspondence was received for this item and circulated to Community Council.
Great, thank you very much. And now can we have the staff presentation, please? Connie, are you with us? See you there?
Yes,
and we
I
can see
am.
the presentation. Go.
I believe Simon will be shepherding this through, as I was not capable of connecting up. So good evening, Chair and members of Council. My name is Connie Sexton and I'm a Planner 1, and I will be presenting case 23-496. And this is an appeal of the refusal of variance at 10 Shipyard Road in Bedford. Next slide, please.
And we see the proposal slide on the screen.
Okay, so the proposal, are you hearing me?
You are breaking up, but we are hearing you.
Oh, my apologies, Chair. Okay,
If you,
so the proposal is that the property owners,
I was going to suggest that if you turn off your video, your audio might become more clear.
sure, try that. Is that clearer, Chair?
For now, yes.
Oh, okay. So the property owners, they're proposing to construct a new single unit dwelling to replace an existing boathouse. In order to facilitate the proposal, a variance has been requested for the side yard setbacks of 3 inches on the right side of the structure and 4 feet on the left side of the structure. Next slide, please. So the background, can you hear me, Chair?
We can, go ahead.
Yes. The proposed dwelling does not meet the bylaw requirements, and therefore a variant application was applied for, as you can see in the slide here. This is an air photo of 10 Shipyard Road. It's located in the center, highlighted in red. Shipyard Road is located off of Shore Drive and fronts the Bedford Basin as well. Next slide, please. The charter requires a notification of an appeal. So this is the notification area for this appeal. Next slide, please. This property is zoned as RSU, which is a residential single unit, and it's under the Bedford land use bylaw. The minimum side yard setback in accordance with the Bedford land use bylaw is 8 feet for a dwelling, and the requested variance would be 3 inches from the right side of the property and 4 feet from the left side of the property. Next slide, please. The variance requested is shown on this sketch. Please note that the site plan predates the lot consolidation, and the rear lot shown on this site plan does not exist at the location, as the water lot that is in the Bedford Basin was consolidated with the land lot very recently. Next slide, please. This is a site photo. It shows the front view as of July 2019. It just shows the existing boathouse structure in relation to the abutting buildings. Next slide, please. Here are the elevations that show the proposed dwelling. The building is an average height of 2.5 feet, and it's proposed to be 18 feet wide and 30 feet in depth. So the footprint would be 540 square feet. You could note that the bottom right elevation faces the ocean, and the bottom left faces the street. Next slide, please. The criteria that needs to be met when considering approval or denial of the requested variance are that a variance may not be granted where it violates the intent of the land use bylaw. The difficulty experienced is general to properties in the area, and the difficulty results in intentional disregard for the requirements of the land use bylaw. Next slide, please. In this case, the difficulty is not general to the properties in the area. The property is narrow, and the constraints regarding the property are due to the size. The majority of the dwellings within the 100-meter notification area could reasonably be enlarged and would be able to comply with the land use bylaw. Next slide, please. Is the difficulty experienced result of intentional disregard? Staff are satisfied that there is no intentional disregard regarding this. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I should go back to the, I'm sorry, Simon. Yes. The difficulty, yes, for slide 11. Could we go back to slide 11, please, Simon? There we are. Sorry. So the other criteria is will the proposal violate the intention of the land use bylaw? The dwelling does not meet the requirements of the land use bylaw. The side yard encroachments may obstruct access to this or surrounding properties. And as well, there may not be adequate space retained for building and property maintenance as well. So those were the three criterion. And the alternatives, if we could go to the last slide, Simon, please. So if Northwest Community Council allows the appeal of the decision, it will be overturned and the variance will be approved. If Northwest Community Council does not allow the appeal, the decision of the development officer will be upheld and the variance will be denied. This is the recommended alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Connie, for that presentation. I'm wondering if there are any questions of clarification from members of council. Go ahead, Councillor Outhet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Connie. Connie, could you just give us a little bit more background on, I'm familiar with this area. I know many fine families down there, and great location, and been down there many times. And I'm just wondering if you give me a little bit more background on how, if there is precedent in the area for this. You touched that other areas, other buildings in the area didn't have similar challenges. I just want to confirm that with either you or Andrew. And the second thing is, can you tell me a little bit more about the concern about access or maintenance? That would be access or maintenance to this building or access and maintenance to surrounding buildings. Could you just give us a little more background on that?
Sure, Councillor Outhet. I can address the issue of access, and I'm going to leave the issue regarding background to Andrew. Basically, for the access, the current boathouse on the property is actually very close to the property line on one side, and it's also very close to the property line on the other side. And if the variance were granted, in order to, say, paint or change a window or do any activity regarding maintenance on the building, I'm not sure if that would be, you'd have to go, I think, on the other person's property. Now, I can't be held to that or anything, but that would be my educated guess.
All right, so that means that this property owner would have trouble accessing there to change window paint, whatever you said. Would it impede the neighboring homeowner or property owner from accessing their home then subsequently as a result of that? I mean, if the person's willing to the inconvenience themselves, I guess is what I'm getting to. But if you're inconveniencing your neighbor, that's a little bit more of a concern to me. Do you follow me?
Yes, and I'm not sure about that answer, Councillor.
Okay, maybe Andrew can then. Thanks very much.
Yes, you're quite welcome.
Yes, hello, councillors. Mr. Chair, councillors, my name is Andrew Faulkner, Development Officer, Principal Planner. I have to apologize. I actually just got kicked out of the meeting and I missed the last probably 20 seconds there. Fortunately, I was allowed back in quickly, but I think your question was on precedent in the area. And
I've got two questions. One's on precedent, but I'm also trying to, and thank you, that's one precedent about some other boat houses and structures in the area and homes. The second is regarding access. Would that be access to as Connie explained, to do painting or window or something as she mentioned, but is that on this property only, or would you be impacting your neighbor as well, which would be a little bit more of a concern?
That is typically a civil issue in the sense that we don't regulate. We regulate setbacks and things like that, but as far as access, we certainly can't. We don't approve trespass, for instance, but we have no control over whether they get permission from their neighbor to do, as Connie said, go on the property for general maintenance, cleaning the gut. As simple as cleaning the gutters. We have no control over whether the neighbor, or nor do they, as to whether the neighbor allows for that access. We'll often see, in newer subdivisions, a access easement, a maintenance easement, if you will, of a couple feet on an abutting property, but that all comes through at the time of subdivision, and it's all one package.
So I'm just a little confused. So let me just interrupt you for a second, Chair's blessing. So we're saying, I'm a little confused, just because one of the reasons we're saying that you shouldn't allow this variance is because the person couldn't access the side of their building to do maintenance. But you're saying we don't comment on that because it's a civil issue. So I'm sorry, you can see my confusion.
We don't control that. So if we don't provide access, pretty much all development now has a 4-foot minimum setback, for instance. And that's typical for giving access for maintenance. In this case, we can't give it and we can't guarantee it, in the sense that the neighbor is not obligated in any way to provide that access. So yeah, it is a concern for building maintenance and building standards. Yes. All
right, that's better. And as far as precedent in the area, Mr. Chair, I could get the answer to that.
Yeah, precedent, that's a hard one. We typically do an evaluation of the area within the notification. The area of notification, because that's the people that traditionally through the charter are impacted by a relaxation of a variance. There were, as Connie mentioned, to report a number of larger properties. There may be some that are closer to the lot line, but the date that they existed, there's some old homes down there that existed well before the bylaw, old boathouses as well. I'm not aware of any, and furthermore, a variance is a unique item, and it's not, it doesn't establish a precedent.
Yeah.
So we don't delve too far into that. We look at the characteristics of the neighborhood, but we don't look as to whether we approved another variance, which could have some hardship or some difficulty that this lot doesn't have, or vice versa. So we don't do that. No.
All right, thank you. I do appreciate the clarification, Andrew, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, thank you, Andrew. Are there any other questions of clarification from staff? Not seeing any. I'd like to open the variance appeal Sorry, Councillor Daigle-Gavin?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think this is a question of clarification, and it's really around the alternative slide. Is this one of those situations where we're doing a double negative again?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, if we, I'm just going to, Simon, if you could bring up the presentation and show the very last slide, please. Thank you very much. So, to reiterate, if Northwest Community Council allows the appeal, the decision of the development officer will be overturned and the variance will be approved, which means that the applicant would be able to build within 3 inches of one side and 4 feet of the other side. And
Yep.
if Northwest, okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. And thank you, Simon. So at this point, I'd like to open the variance of appeal hearing. We don't have the property owner with us this evening, but we do have their representative, Micah. Great. Thank you, Micah. You are welcome to address council. You are currently muted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I will be very brief. Sean apologizes. He was called in to the ER. He's an emergency doctor. And as you can imagine, the weather today has resulted in a very busy ER, so he won't be able to be here. I want to just go right to the point. The point of the variance is that this property is very unusually narrow. It is one of the narrowest properties on the entire Bedford basin. It's approximately 20 feet wide. And if we were to follow the bylaws, we could build a 4-foot wide building. So it's just not practical. And we know that the intent of the bylaw is to provide fair and equitable development opportunity to Halifax residences. And in this case, we're not granted a fair development opportunity because of the required setbacks. The existing building that is on the property has been used as a cottage by the family for 35 years. They're a very well-known, well-respected family. Sean is a very down-to-earth, friendly guy. Many people might know him. We are not trying to build anything unreasonable or to create a nuisance to anyone. We have been very conscientious in the design. I can speak to the maintenance issue. That the building is designed so that we don't have to access the sides of the building to do maintenance. The roof slopes to the front, so there will be no eaves to clean or anything of the order. The siding material is metal, which requires a 50-year. It's guaranteed for 50 years, so there won't be any maintenance for 50 years. The neighbor has already built a retaining wall to respect the close. It's approximately 6 inches away from the property line right now. They recently developed their 2,500 square foot house, and they kindly built a retaining wall that actually encroaches on their own property and allows plenty of room to walk around the Christie's boathouse. So there actually is access currently. We are asking to just maintain that existing 6 inches. We're actually asking for 3 inches just to be careful. And on the other side, we're asking to go from, it's currently about 5.5 feet, and we'd like to go to within 4 feet of the property boundary. So again, we're not asking for a lot. We're just asking to basically redevelop the existing boathouse into a R1 with running water, electricity, sewer, so that they can use it as a cottage under 2022 standards. And it does, I just like to emphasize, it does set a precedent in that there is no other comparable property within that 100-meter area that we could even say is comparable. The neighboring properties are considerably wider and don't require variance to build the exact same building. This is a very disadvantaged property. And if we don't get a variance, it's in effect a restricted property. So then my question to council would be, if you don't approve it, what is our choice? What can we do with this property? Because it falls out of fair use. I mean, there's nothing we can develop.
Okay, thank you, Micah, for that presentation. Wondering if there are any questions of clarification from members of council, and go ahead, Councillor Outfit.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, it's Tim Outfit. Thank you for being here. You're mentioning that the family, and I certainly know the family, and I agree with your comments about the family and about Sean. It's been used for 35 years by the family. So obviously there is a use. And if we don't allow this, it doesn't mean that it isn't usable. It means that they can't do what is being proposed. So have you looked at doing things that don't require the variance? Have you looked at using it the way? Just give me a little more background about why this was necessary, and if there was. You know, I always ask this to developers. I always ask this to staff. Was there some meeting of the minds here to try and come up with something that would be less of concern to Andrew and Connie, for example? So just give me a little bit of history on this and what you've tried to do and what you think your options are.
So we were working with Connie and Andrew. Connie was passing it off, of course, to Andrew. So I was working directly with Connie. And we were very much trying to work with them to try and find a solution. And we were hoping that we could renovate the existing structure. But the issue is that the existing structure is actually below the geodetic reference point, which is a point that has been established with the anticipation of rising sea levels. And part of the planning, I believe it's the National Building Code, restricts any permit from being issued for any type of renovation to a building that is below the geodetic reference point. So there's nothing we can really do with the existing building because the planning office is, in my understanding, restricted from issuing a permit because this building is below the 12 feet from the medium high water mark or medium water mark. So we would like, part of our proposal is that we don't want to demolish the existing building, but we do want it to conform to this requirement. So we would elevate the foundation by about 3 feet to meet that requirement. Now, the other alternative is we could do some sort of pylon so that the foundation stays where it is, but that any finished part of the building would be above the 3.8 meter geodetic reference point. That is an option. It's technically still an auxiliary building and meets the maximum 13-foot high height for an auxiliary building. We would then need to change it to a single family dwelling, which is an option, but they're restricted to what they have. And in terms of construction, we're basically doing the same thing. We're demolishing what's there, rebuilding it, but being clever about the foundation and keeping all the drywall and electric and all of that above the high water mark. I mean, I would much prefer to build a proper residence above the high water mark. That's what we're proposing. That's what we're asking.
All right, well, thank you for that clarification. And Mr. Chair, when staff comes back, I'd like Andrew and Connie to just respond to Micah's comments there about their options and the foundation and whatnot. So we'll just serve notice that I'd like when that comes back. Thank you. When they come back. Thank you. Thank you, Micah.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any, I don't see any other questions of clarification. So could I please have a motion to close the variance appeal hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I think that was Deputy Mayor moved it and Councillor Lovelace seconded. All in favor?
That's both people. Yes.
Aye.
I think you had the mover and the seconder being the same, Mr. Chair. You better check that. You said Councillor Lovelace and the Deputy Mayor.
Yes, perhaps. I was thinking the previous Deputy Mayor.
Councillor Tim Oaken, seconded by Deputy Mayor. There you go.
Thank you. It has been an interesting day. We'll leave it at that. So at this point, I see that Andrew and perhaps Connie would do you have any response to any of the information presented by Micah?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just wanted for clarification. The issue is there's an existing building that is considered non-conforming. We would not be able to approve it today under the current bylaw, which is fine. There's thousands and thousands of them out there. What happens is, as soon as you change the use, the new requirements apply. And it's not so much this geodetic elevation is a land use bylaw thing to deal with seawater rise. However, it's only tied to the residential development. So as that building sits today as a non-conforming structure, it can be maintained and repaired indefinitely. But as soon as the use changes, the new regulations apply. And that includes the geodetic elevation, which is fine. They can achieve that. And that's the top or the bottom of the floor level of any residential portion of the building has to be above that 3.8 meters geodetic above ordinary high water mark. And that's spelled out in the land use bylaw as well. That came in with the regional plan and is applied across HRM. So the issue isn't so much this elevation as it's the change in use that triggers all these other requirements, such as more significant setbacks and elevating. Yeah. So just a point of clarification on that.
Okay. Councillor Rothick, go ahead.
Thank you. So the existing use, and I've been there, I've seen it. The existing use can continue, Andrew, as you said. In your opinion, is there something that could be done potentially to change the use of this, but still not require this variance? And I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I guess what I'm trying to do is a lot of it, but I guess what I'm trying to do is deal with the concern that this building is useless if we don't allow this variance. No, it isn't useless because it can continue its current use. But in theory, do you think something could be created that would allow the use to be changed while still respecting the LUB?
Well, one of the things is the RSU, which is the residential single unit zone, and it has very limited uses that are permitted. In fact, accessory buildings are typically tied to a main use. Obviously, there's no room for that on the property. Right. I guess I can't see any. Maintaining the current use is all I can think of. We really do leave it on the owner because we don't know what their aspirations and dreams are for the property. But as was referenced, a greater setback from that, other than the 3 inches from a lot line, might have been more. We may not have been able to approve it still, or maybe we would have a different look at it. It would change our perspective. We don't deal with the what if, we just deal with what's in front of us, because that is what the owner wants to do, right? So we don't speculate on what they could do. What they want to do is what they've shown us. So I guess I really avoided answering your question as best.
Well, no, I think, no, and I do understand. No, you've given me some food for thought here, and I do appreciate that. And I did talk to you about this the other day, trying to understand what options might be, because I like to say yes when I can. There are some times we say no when we have to, and there are other times when we say go back to the drawing board. And I was just wondering if that was a logical option in this case. So thank you.
That is up to the property owner to determine. Yes. Like I said, we reviewed what's in front of us, and we might take a different take. And I think there was some discussion earlier about it. They are in a tight spot, very tight. But we have found there are many lots in HRM that are zoned that don't permit all the uses that are permitted on the lot doesn't mean that they can actually are large enough to handle all the uses that they could have. They're fortunate that they have an existing use that can be maintained. I mean, I understand exactly the difficulty, and I'm empathetic to what the problem is, but it impacts other properties as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Outfit. Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Andrew, this probably question follows right on your last statement, which is if this variance was allowed, what impact does that have on sort of precedent-setting behavior? Like, does it then, if it's allowed, is this variance very specific for this one use? Or is it something then that other properties that may have a similar need, then this is precedent-setting in any way?
No, there is no precedent set by a variance application. A variance is not a zone. It is a site-specific relaxation of the bylaw requirements. It's tied to lot area, frontage, and setbacks. So it doesn't, you can't use it as an example somewhere else and say, well, we granted one here, therefore we're forced to grant it on this property 3 over. Not at all. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
There is no precedent.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions. Andrew, I do have a question. And that is one of the comments that you had made was that you could maintain it for as long as possible, but you couldn't change the purpose of the building. In the report, on the top of page 2, it talks about the existing boathouse having been destroyed in Hurricane 1 in June of 2004 and then rebuilt as a boathouse. You didn't touch on that aspect of it. If this is destroyed for some reason, could it be rebuilt as a boathouse, even recognizing that it's non-conforming in today's standards?
We were in exceptional circumstances in Hurricane 1. There were thousands of people who lost private property, and council and staff made every effort to let them get back to normal by approving reconstruction. We didn't go out. The way the charter works is if it's more than 75% above the foundation destroyed, you cannot rebuild a non-conforming structure. We determined not to look at that 75% during that time. So if someone's building was severely damaged or destroyed by one, we permitted reconstruction. If there was evidence that it existed, right? And there was. We always look for that piece of it, whether through air photos at the time or whatever information we had. And yes, we allowed reconstruction.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So at this point, what are the wishes of council?
Well, Mr. Chair, we have the motion that that I'll put on the floor, and then my colleagues can vote as they see fit. The motion, of course, is in the positive, and then as you outlined, Councillor Daigle-Gammon, you vote yes, the building can be changed. If you vote no, then we stick with what staff has decided. So the motion, so we can vote on it, is that the appeal be allowed. So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Outfit. Is there a seconder for that?
Second.
Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Councillor Outfit.
This is a tough one because I have had some pushback from the neighborhood of folks that are not in favor of this. I do agree that the right decision was made in 2004 to allow this to be rebuilt. And I do agree with Micah's comments about how this is a wonderful area, a wonderful family, etc. But I do think that some other options might be able to be come up with for this area. So at this point, I think we're going to have to disallow the variance, but I hope something else will come forward. But my colleagues are certainly free to vote as they see fit.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn, I see that you are unmuted.
Oh,
No?
no,
Okay.
I'm good. I was just preparing for the vote.
Ah, there we go.
I'll call for the question.
The question has been called. So all in favor of the appeal and the variance, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. That motion fails. The variance is denied. So moving on. The next item on the agenda is correspondence, petitions. Oh, first of all, thank you very much, everybody, for helping out with that case, with coming forward with the presentation. The next item is 11.1 correspondence, and over to the clerk. Is there any correspondence?
There was correspondence received for items for item 10.2.1.
Okay, and that was distributed?
And that was distributed, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Andrea. Are there any petitions?
There were no petitions received through the clerk's office for this meeting.
Okay, and I don't see any from members of council. There are no presentations. There are no information items brought forward. So the next item on the agenda is 13.1.1, case 23532, discharging agreement and amending development agreement for 636 Bedford Highway. There is no staff presentation available on, at this point, but staff is available for question. So what are the wishes of council?
Actually, Chair Russell, I would like to clarify that Melissa does have a presentation prepared, and I had circulated it to council this afternoon. I just did not have a chance to update the annotated agenda. My apologies.
No, it's all good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to put the motion on the floor, and I don't require a presentation, but if my colleagues would like one, that's just fine with me.
Council, would you like a presentation? I'm not seeing anybody say yes, so go ahead, Councillor Oathett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move that Northwest Council, Community Council 1 approve by resolution the proposed amending development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment B of the November 29th, 2021 staff report, and 2, require the amending agreement to be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end. So move.
Thank you. Do we seconded by, I think, Councillor Dago Gammon? So go ahead, Councillor Oathett.
I have nothing to say, and I'm sure you'll be happy about that.
Wow. Thank you.
Sure. Somewhat pleased.
Is there anything from any other member of council? Okay, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Great, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is 13.1.2, case 23058, development agreement for vacant lot on Sackville Drive at Millwood Drive. We have Dean McDougall with us. I think no staff presentation, but he is available for questions. So, Council, what is your wish? Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
Motion on the floor. Thank you very much. I will move that Northwest Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A of the December 14th, 2021 staff report to develop 2 multiple unit residential buildings on Sackville Drive, Middle Sackville, and schedule a public hearing. I so move.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Oathett, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
Thank you very much. Not much to say on this, as this is just first reading, and we're going to schedule the public hearing. But just to put some context on this for folks who may not have seen the report or tuning in, This is the proposed apartment buildings that are suggested for next to the fire station on Sackville Drive, right at the corner of Sackville Drive and Millwood. So looking forward to seeing the presentation and hearing from the community when the public hearing is set. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn. I don't see any further comments on this. So all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. Thank you. That motion passes. The next item on the agenda is 13.1.3, case 20110, rezoning and development agreement for an open space design development along Wingate Drive, Beaverbank. What are the wishes? We have Thea Langell with us. There is no staff presentation, but she is available for questions. What are the wishes of council?
I can put the motion on the floor, Mr. Chair, to
Okay.
get the ball rolling on this. I move that Northwest Community Council, 1, approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially of the same form as set out in attachment B of the October 5th, 2021 staff report, and 2, require that the development agreement be signed by the property owner within 240 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be at an end. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Blackburn. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, Councillor Blackburn.
Well, I don't really have much to add on to this, only because I'm not quite sure what we can say. This is, so we started the public hearing on this last meeting, and I don't know, do we need some clarification on the process on this? Because it was a bit clunky, and I don't know if the process wise, what if we're continuing from the public hearing, or this is just the debate portion. So I'm unsure as to where we go from here, but I'll defer to the clerk's office, and I see that Councillor Daigle-Gammon has raised her hand to speak as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Andrea.
Yes, thank you, Chair Russell. So in order to answer Councillor Blackburn's question, yes, the public hearing is closed. So tonight is a matter of debating and voting on the proposed development agreement. Staff is available. Thea Langell is here. If there are any further questions of clarification that councillors have to further clarify what was presented by staff and by the applicant, by the registered speakers at the public hearing, you can answer those questions of clarification in regards to that.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that said, I guess I do have one question for staff, and it's with regards to the cut through of a couple of.
Councillor Blackburn, your audio is becoming unstable, or perhaps that's just me hearing it.
It is for me as well. So
Just wondering, can this? Oh,
Lisa,
Councillor Blackburn. Yeah.
All right.
your audio
I'll
was
shut up.
becoming unstable. Thank you very
Don't know
much
if
for.
that's- I'm not
Yep,
sure
go
if
ahead.
that works.
Hopefully it does. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering, a question of staff, is it possible to build this project without the cut through at Elise Victoria Drive? Thank you.
And we have Thea Langell with us, and I'm sure she anticipated this. Go ahead, Thea.
Good evening, Northwest Community Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and I was having some video challenges earlier too, so if I become unstable, let me know and I'll turn my video off. With regards to the the connection at Leeds, Victoria. What I can say is staff has definitely revisited that over the past, actually 2 years. So the connection to Elise Victoria has been in place in the proposal perspective since around 2017, and there was definitely concern raised by the community. So what staff did is we went back and kind of looked to explore alternatives to see if there was something else. So staff did reconsider that, and the removal of the connection at Elise Victoria is not supported by staff. That proposed connection follows the municipal design guidelines, which is set up to utilize the existing approved road reserve that does exist at Elise Victoria. That connection also accommodates and provides, connections through to existing communities. It links the existing streets. It limits cul-de-sacs, and it also allows for the looping of our water service, the main pipes in the area. One of the things that we have to do when looking at our road network in proposals like this is we turn our attention to the municipal design guidelines, and it's through the municipal design guidelines that we look at where and how streets should be connected. And there's a whole set of provisions in the municipal guidelines that speak to those speak to street networks, one of which is they need to be contiguous, and streets also have to be laid out in prolongated to existing streets of the same subdivision or adjacent subdivisions. So the answer to the question for Councillor Blackburn is it would be very, very difficult to achieve. I don't know if the removal of the connection at least Victoria would result in meeting the requirements of the municipal design guidelines. And staff did look at that, and we weren't able to support that removal of that connection.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Blackburn. Go ahead, Councillor Daigle-Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Blackburn, and thanks, Thea, for the answer that I really didn't like, though. Understood the answer, didn't quite like it. Very difficult to achieve, doesn't sound impossible. So one of the things that, this is so, what Councillor Blackburn said, it's been a bit of a bumpy experience for us all on this one, with the public hearing being a month ago. And we're so far away from listening to the community and at the public hearing to making a decision. And so, we had 99 signatures on a petition. We had letters received from concerned residents. We had presentations at the December meeting, and all saying, this is a nice development. The only issue is the negative impact that it has on the neighboring community. And when we talk about, whether a development agreement is approved or not, and we talk about what are the reasons that maybe we wouldn't, and one of them is having a negative impact on neighboring communities. And I think that, the residents of Capilano have demonstrated how they see that as having a negative impact. So, and there were a couple of concerns. So yes, the cut-throughs were one, but also there was a concern about the wastewater treatment plant, and there are 7 of them that are there on the map. And even when we were speaking last month, the developer spoke about maybe they might not have to do all 7, that there might be some on-site septic. And so I would like a little bit clarity on where or how do we find out whether or not there's going to be 7 wastewater treatment facilities, or if there's going to be residential on-site septic. And that would limit the amount of wastewater treatment facilities, 3 of which are very, very close to the abutting properties in Capilano. And so reducing them and understanding what could be reduced, I'm wondering if that can be part of a supplementary report, that we could get more clarity on that, because it does seem to me that'd be more information there. And of course, yes, the cut-throughs at least Victoria and at Bryan Crest are an issue. When we talk about, yes, they were reserve roads in 20 whatever, I don't think anybody ever imagined what the density would be, that it would change on the other side from industrial to, this kind of a zone change. And so did people anticipate that there would be that big a difference connecting communities. These are not the same kinds of communities. And I understand we want them to be connected, but I don't know what you're connecting to connect into Capilano. There's no school. It's not about any religious place. It's not about any kind of acute care. It's not to any service. So 7 options. I think there are 7 roads in and around this entire development. Wingate, Bryan Crest, East Victoria, and then on the other side there are 2. So there's when you talk about Red Book and how many they need, is 6. Oh, I think there's 6. Do we need 6? Is that a requirement for the Red Book and for the density? I mean, we have a development coming on the Fall River Road that's got 500 units and a long-term care facility, and that only has 1 road in and out onto the Fall River Road. It's not joining into anything else. So I really think that we need some more information to understand why this needs so many connections. That just, it doesn't make sense to me. And it also just, in terms of traffic studies and the impact on traffic, we talk about, connecting these roads, like how long can a road be? Some of these roads, if you think from one end to the other, are pretty long. And we all have experienced in our districts, we've got streets that are like drag races, drag strips. So do we want to create them? That doesn't make any sense to me either, about creating these really long roads. Even the developer spoke about traffic, using traffic calming. Well, it can't be part of a development agreement as far as I understood from the previous meeting. And so we all know it's years away from seeing sidewalks being built or getting traffic calming. So any of those mitigation factors aren't going to be able to be met for years. So I really would like to see not a decision tonight if possible. Could there be a supplementary report that could look at giving us more information about why using so many reserve roads? What is the impact on the traffic and also on the wastewater treatment plants, that we get more information on what exactly is the plan and how will they be used? Is that possible, Thea?
Are you asking
Or
for?
our legal counsel?
I can respond to the questions if council so wishes.
Go ahead, Thea.
Yeah, thanks.
I will try to, I was trying to make some quick notes here, so I'll try to go through them as best possible and let me know if I've missed anything for you, Councillor. First, I will speak with regards to Capilano. And when Capilano came in for subdivision, it was required to show road reserves that would provide access for future connections onto the neighboring properties. That occurred as road reserves as you move towards what's known as Charleswood, that's under development, as well as the road reserves that would be up against this particular property. So these were known locations of road reserves that were part of that subdivision approval and that would have met the municipal design guidelines at that time. With regards to the road reserves and the number, if you look at on the Capilano side, there are 3 road reserves. One sits at East Victoria, one sits at Valerie Court, and the other one sits along kind of a road reserve that pops off of Bryan Crest. So there's 3 on the Capilano side. And then on the Monarch side, you have another 3 road reserves, 2 along the Rivendell area, and you have 1 at O'Leary, and 1 at Galloway. So that would be 4. So in total, along the adjacent properties, there are 7 different possibilities. But when you're looking at the Capilano side, there are 3 places to connect. So the question is, could you remove East Victoria? I think by removing East Victoria, you're removing the connection to maybe Valerie Court. It would be very difficult, and I think almost I'm thinking it may actually be impossible to develop this subdivision without providing at least 2 connection points on the Capilano side to ensure that you've met the requirements of the municipal design guidelines. One of those things is that you have to ensure that a subdivision that has more than 100 units has a second access. And that second access is required for a whole range of reasons, but primarily for emergency purposes, to ensure that there's safe ways in and out of a community, of a subdivision. And what we always look at doing and why we have the road reserves where we do is so that we can provide these multiple connections so that we can have these second accesses that go to different locations, either along Wingate or eventually you can maybe even loop up to Beaver Bank if it was necessary. So I'm just going to, I know the community feels that what's being shown are cut-throughs through their community in accordance with the municipal guidelines. They're actually connections and not cut-throughs. They are things that the municipal design guidelines encourage to occur between two residential subdivisions. So this is connecting one residential subdivision to another residential subdivision. With respect to the wastewater, treatment facilities. So yes, in the development agreement, specifically section 4.4, the development agreement does outline how these lands can be serviced from a septic perspective. At the moment, the developer is contemplating and considering the wastewater treatment facilities, kind of those smaller package plants that have been located and shown on the site plan, kind of as a guide of where they may go. But the development agreement also recognizes that once you get into that detailed engineering, it may discover that it might be better to have the smaller on-site septic fields. So the development agreement does allow for both. One of the things I did want to share with council today is that if the developer is considering a wastewater treatment facility, they have to follow the Atlantic Wastewater Guideline Manual, and that's what Nova Scotia Environment does require. And there are setback requirements for those types of treatment facilities. And I actually went and got confirmation of this today. And that type of treatment facility would require a setback of nearly 500 feet from the nearest residence and about 100 feet from the nearest property line. So yes, they're generally showing an area that they might have a wastewater treatment facility, but they have to meet these guidelines at the permitting stage. And if they're not able to achieve those setbacks, they may have to be moved to a different location. So from Nova Scotia Environment's perspective, they have set up standards and requirements to ensure that when these facilities go in, they're not going into someone's backyard. So there are setback requirements for these facilities. I want to just double check my notes for you, Councillor. Oh, I will just kind of, you made a reference with regards to Site B and a second access. Site B is a little bit of a unique, different set of circumstances, not anticipating that we're going to see large scale subdivision there. So it's actually a driveway that's likely to be under construction for Site B. And even with the driveway, they still have to have an emergency access to the abutting property owner, to the abutting properties on the other side through a road reserve. So there is some similarities there. Going back through my notes again. I think I've covered it all, but let me know, Councillor, if there was another piece that you felt I might have been missing in my overview for you.
Done a great job, Thea, answering. Thank you. I have two questions as a result of your answer, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Nobody else has put their name on the board.
Okay. So looping the okay, wait, no, on the cut through, when we listed all the ones through, the one that was missing was Wingate from the list. And is that because you saw that through Valley reports?
I know the Wingate one is kind of considered that main point of access. So that's the main road, kind of almost like the major collector. I was looking at when the two residential subdivisions were built, what were the road reserves that were required to be built into that subdivision to ensure that there was future connection. When the Rivendell and Monarch were being developed, there was the four road reserves that were required. And when Capilano was developed, there was the 3 road reserves that were required.
Okay. And so when we talk, your answer about looping the water service, that was one of the other reasons for using the road reserve. Is a road reserve the only way to loop water service, or can that be done other than in a roadway?
In my conversations with Halifax Water in the past, the ideal set of circumstances is obviously within the roadway. It's that way it is owned publicly, and it's something that they can get access to. There are unique situations where we do have to look at creating easements or different connections so that we can kind of make that last connection into the road reserve, or sorry, into the public street. But Halifax Water does prefer to have the pipes within the road.
And when we talk about the second access required sometimes for emergency services, so would it be possible to have an emergency road only instead of doing that, to just make it an emergency road? Is that possible for emergency access only?
In my experience with dealing with different subdivisions throughout HRM, when that comes as a question, it definitely raises some concerns. You can imagine on nights like tonight, snow removal and salting. If it's an emergency access, the plows still need to be able to ensure that proper snow removal is provided. And it becomes complicated when it's not clear if that's actually something that can be safely traveled on by emergency vehicles or ambulance or even the snow removal piece. In this particular case, if we were looking at a situation where you needed to make a second access in a very small location, where that second access was going to kind of poke out onto the main thoroughfare, like your major collector or your minor collector, then that could be a set of circumstances that would be looked at. But here we're dealing with a subdivision of 300 and some odd homes. And as the municipal design guidelines state, we really need to look at providing connections through the existing two subdivisions to connect up the subdivision that is proposed. And streets are meant to connect to one another, and which is why there's the road reserves put in place.
And there is no other place where it could be a connection other than what is proposed?
Well, we have to look at the existing road reserves. So that's what we have to work with. So we have 3 locations on Capilano. And I would suggest if we were looking at a removal of the Elise Victoria, then we would be back looking at Valerie Court as the other alternative. There are some challenges in and around that area due to the environmental features on the subject property, which is another factor that has to be looked at, because the policies do require that the environmental areas and the primary conservation areas take precedent over the road connections as well.
I'm way over time, aren't I, Mr. Chair?
You are.
Well, the very last one is just looking at the whole traffic study and how that is perceived in relation to all of the developments that are being proposed in the area and what the impact that has there.
Actually,
is there any consideration?
Actually, Councillor, I'm going to interrupt for just a second. I would like to remind those members of the public who are in attendance in the meeting that this is a discussion at this point between the councillors and staff. The public participation portion of this meeting has not yet started. So please keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
I didn't see
it. Councillor,
okay.
If you don't mind, I'm not sure if Councillor Lovelace would like, sorry, Deputy Mayor, would you had suggested something?
Yeah, so I was just going to suggest that perhaps there may be an opportunity for us to break for a few minutes and potentially go in camera if Councillor Daigle-Gammon wanted to talk about in depth some of the sort of, how shall I say?
Shall we discuss whatever in camera you would like in camera?
That's correct. That's what I'm thinking. It may be beneficial.
So there,
sure. Just a suggestion.
So therefore you would.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, I move that we go on camera. Sorry.
Councillor Ethick, go ahead.
Yeah, just it's fine to go on camera, but we normally have to give a reason, like if it's to receive legal advice or something, just to make sure we're.
And that, I guess, was my point, was to yes, receive legal advice.
Receive legal advice. Okay, then I will agree to. Yep.
Okay, so Councillor Oathit, does that mean you are seconding it? Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Oathit. I don't see Councillor Blackburn.
I think we lost Councillor Blackburn.
We may have lost Councillor Blackburn. Okay, so all in favor of moving in camera, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Well, no. Yeah, Councillor Blackburn is not with us. So, Andrea, what do we need to do? And can you please inform Councillor Blackburn?
Yes. To go in camera, you'll leave the Zoom meeting. So you actually need to leave this webinar and you use the Teams meeting link that is in your calendar for the in-camera meeting. And I will reach out to Councillor Blackburn.
She had a power bump and she says she is logging back in now, but it might be, I'll text her back.
Okay, let her know that we're going in camera.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Andrea.
Okay,
Thank you very much. We will see you on the other side.
Okay.
So we are returning from the in-camera discussion that we had. And I am just waiting until we are all back. I have shifted from the shores of First Lake into the rec room. It's a little warmer in here.
Well, I can tell you, the only thing I can smell right now is freshly baked cinnamon buns. They just came out of the oven. My daughter's baking. So, yeah, smells
So
good
it's a-
over here.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. Which smell would be better, fresh baked cinnamon buns or wood stove?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little chilly though. It's a terrible night out there. My goodness.
It does look it.
And thanks to you, I'm now craving cinnamon buns.
So Chair Russell, we're all of the members are back, and so is Roxanne and Thea.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Andrea. So we are continuing the discussion on case 20110. Where's my chat? Okay. Would anybody like to? I'm opening the floor to any members of council. Councillor Daigle-Gammon?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
You got me before I could put comment in the chat again. So for clarity, I would ask a supplemental report has already been done, which answers the question about whether or not removing Elise Victoria, that's already been investigated. Could you just give me some more clarity on that, please?
I can, Councillor. Mr. Chair, through to the Councillor. There has not been a supplemental report, but what has happened is back in 2019, 2020, as a result of the comments that we had received from the community about the connection through to Elise Victoria, we did revisit street network changes with the developer. So we asked if there was other alternatives that could be explored, and we worked on that and looked at that with the developer as well as our engineering staff. And in the end, it was determined that there wasn't a better alternative. Elise Victoria was the connection that did meet the HRM requirements from a policy perspective, as well as the municipal design guidelines. So in summary, Councillor, I think what you're looking for is a revisit. That was something we actually just did over the last couple of years prior to coming forward to the public hearing, because we knew that would be a question that would come from both council and the public, and we wanted to make sure that we had adequately explored that for the community.
Okay, so if I asked for a supplemental report, really probably would just prolong this conversation because the information probably would not change from where it is now.
I would anticipate we may see a similar result, but again, because this is a negotiation process, it really will be up to the developer as to whether or not they are looking at a change or they're willing to do that change. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces involved when you suddenly start to remove a road. It involves pipes, it involves kind of overall street layouts. We also have to ensure that the environmental areas remain protected. So council could ask for it. In the end, it may be a situation where the developer says, no, thank you, I want consideration on the proposal in front. Now, I share that only because we did spend some time over the last 2 years revisiting the connections, and what's been put in front of council in the staff report and in the concept plans, we feel has been the best negotiated process that we had available to us.
Okay. Good. Well, colleagues, no surprise that I don't feel that I could support this development agreement because I do feel that it negatively impacts on the neighboring community of Capilano. So back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And if any other councillors have any questions or comments, please indicate that in the chat. Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Did we lose Councillor Blackburn again? She's coming back now. I think she may have missed that information. I think she's having some power outages, and I'm not sure if Councillor Outfit is still with us either.
They're both showing as in the participants list right now, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, good.
I am here.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was here. I don't have any questions. I appreciate that this has been a difficult and ongoing conversations over time. I think that we've seen a number of examples of cut-throughs of roads that are road reserves and so on. My colleagues know that I have a motion into Northwest Community Council, into Regional Council, looking at connector roads and how we can create more connected communities.
Looking out the window.
So, sorry?
Councillor Outfit, I just want to mention that you're not muted.
I was talking to the.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry. So I will be supporting this development. I'm a big believer in good development, and good development means connected roads. There are reasons why the Red Book has been developed over years to create more connected communities. I have subdivisions with only one exit. When you don't have the egress, you can end up in a lot of trouble. And certainly good planning means that we look at where the best place for pipes are. We do, we look at the future for expansion of our communities overall. And also we have the regional plan, which is guiding our development. And so, I appreciate all the comments and, the engagement from the public. And I don't think that this is going to be a negative impact on the community. In fact, I think what it'll do is create a much more connected community overall. So thank you so much to staff for all the work that you've done on this. And, I'm also thinking about the fact that we just updated the municipal guidelines and the Red Book. That was, it's been a lot of work, a lot of time and effort, and certainly can appreciate, it's change, right? And change is hard. But thank you all very much, and I will be supporting this.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Thea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to correct a statement that I had made earlier that I forgot to capture when Councillor Deagle-Gammon asked me that question. I had indicated that there was only 3 road reserves on the Capilano side, and I did misspeak. There are 4. So both on the Capilano side and on the Monarch side, there are 4 road reserves, and this proposal is proposing to connect at 2 of those locations of the 4 on each side. So I just wanted to clarify that misrepresentation that I said 3 rather than, sorry, I said 3 when there should have been 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further speakers. We do have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded.
Question?
The question has been called. So all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Councillor Outfit, your camera is off. I just want to point out. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And Councillor Blackburn has frozen. So that was.
Oh my God.
That was a negative vote from Councillor Deagle-Gammon, and we aren't sure from Councillor Blackburn. We will have to check from her if or when she returns to the meeting. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We are moving on. Motions from members of Northwest Community Council and motions, there are none. There is no. We do have a.
Councillor Blackburn does seem to be back if you'd like to try again, Mr. Chair. I'm seeing her there, but muted.
Councillor Blackburn, are you back with us?
She just went off mute, but we can't hear her.
No, we can't hear you. You may have the phone number and may be able to dial in.
I've got her on screen now.
We can see you moving.
Am I here?
You're here.
Should I take
Woohoo.
off? Should I-
Yes, turn off your video, please, Councillor Blackburn. It might improve your audio.
Lisa, are you
Maybe-
still with us?
Maybe just do video and give us a thumbs up
There
or
we
thumbs
go.
down.
Lisa, are you still with us? We can't hear you.
I am. I am. The audio is lagging.
Okay.
But
Andrea or Roxanne, is this reliable enough to ask Lisa, to ask Councillor Blackburn for her vote on case 20110?
I don't know if it's reliable enough because her video and her audio both seem to be lagging. Unless, Councillor Blackburn, do you want to try leaving the meeting again and rejoining?
Or just
I
phone
will
in?
try that.
Oh, I think it's working better now.
You,
Say yay or nay.
My apologies. It's hit and miss.
okay. Councillor Blackburn, are you in favor of or against item 13.1.3, case 20110?
Me if I'm voting yay or nay on 13.1.3.
Yes.
I voted yay on that.
You voted in favor of that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Andrea
Yes.
and Roxanna, does that count as part of the record?
Yes.
Beautiful, thank you very much.
So Chair Russell, do you want to declare how that motion concluded, please?
That motion passes. Thank you very much, Andrea. So again, we have moved through 13 to 14. We have an information report that has come to us in camera. Do we need to go in camera to deal with that information report? Not seeing any desire to go in camera for that. We don't have any added items. We don't have any notices of motion. So we are on to public participation. It has taken us a little while to get here, but we are here. And as a reminder to those watching from home, in order to have signed up as a speaker, the deadline was 4:30 p.m. the business day prior to the hearing. There are 2 speakers signed up for today's meeting. Any member of the public who has registered to speak during public participation has up to 5 minutes to speak. When a person finishes speaking, members of community council are able to ask questions of clarification about what the person has presented. I would like to remind speakers that any comments made during public participation in respect of matters requiring a public hearing, such as the approval of a development agreement or in respect of an appeal heard by community council, such as a variance appeal, cannot be considered by community council in reaching a decision unless the comments are made during the public hearing or during the speaking portion of the appeal hearing. When I call a speaker's name, you may unmute your mic and begin speaking. So the speakers with us are Trevor Clooney and Lisa Fry. Trevor, are you with us this evening?
I am.
Super. Good evening, Trevor. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good day. My name is Trevor Clooney, and I live with my family in Capilano Estates. I will speak to case 20110 and my impending appeal. First, I am pro-development. However, development has to be in line with the policies established to protect the residents that are most negatively impacted by planned developments. To that end, the policy in question from IM 15 states, in considering development agreements, HRM shall ensure that controls are placed on the proposed development so as to reduce conflict with any adjacent or nearby land use by reason of traffic generation. I ask what controls means in this context. Just choosing EVD or East Victoria Drive as one of the two connections will increase traffic and cut-throughs, which was and is known by the developers, and hence the reason they did not include it in their original proposal. As stated in the 2015 public hearing, question Mr. Mailman, resident of District 14, is there no road connection in the middle of the development? Answer Mr. Rad on behalf of the developer, to avoid shortcutting, it was not suggested. 7 years later, this honest answer is still true and even more relevant. Now the developers have, and I presume will say that if they change the proposal back to having the cut-throughs, both being Ts requiring stop signs, that this would only help the 7 homeowners that live at the end of East Victoria Drive. The residents do not agree. That is why we tabled a petition with 99 signatures against the EBD connection, not both connections, as erroneously portrayed by HRM at the public hearing. It is clear that EBD connection would both increase the amount and speed of traffic and funnel that traffic through this connection. This has a negative impact on all residents of EBD, Peter Thomas, and Taylor Drive, which has already had a car pedestrian fatality. Essentially, it negatively affects all of Capilano Estates. The NWPAC also appear concerned, so they advise consideration should be given to not connecting to EBD. The developer's position is that this is common for advisory committees to make suggestions, and these may be considered, and in this case, they were not. HRM's response to this consideration is they are not supportive of this request. They say the connection is following guidelines for accommodating through traffic, linking existing streets, and utilizing an existing road reserve. We say all potential connections do that. HRM says policy is to limit cul-de-sacs. We say they may be decreasing one cul-de-sac, but they're adding 2 within the development. This reeks of hypocrisy. HRM says the connection allows looping of water main pipes. We say pipes can be looped without connecting the roads to vehicle traffic. Residents would love a walking trail through to the new development with pipes underneath, as that is what the land is currently used for. In closing, EBD is the only connection relative to all other road reserves, that's 4 road reserves in Capilano, that has no stop signs, will increase the amount and speed of traffic, and has the possibility of being connected on the other end. Thus, HRM has not placed controls on the proposed development so as to reduce conflict with adjacent nearby land use by reason of traffic generation. We argue that by endorsing the EBD connection, HRM has in fact selected the alternative that will cause the most conflict, as confirmed by the developer in 2015, and which is seen through any reasonable assessment of the connections available. We ask that the councillors only approve this application with a minor adjustment in that the connection at EBD is removed and replaced if required with an alternative that also limits conflict with adjacent landowners due to traffic generation. This minimal request has been denied. In addition, those affected were given 1 day's notice to register and speak at today's hearing and were misled at the last meeting when HRM advertised the decision would be made on the development agreement. HRM and especially the councillors should be ashamed of themselves in how they voted within this process, with the exception of Kathy Deal again. Again, there's 4 road reserves in Capilano, and I will be putting appeal in based on the fact that you're not meeting your policies, respecting that controls are placed on the proposed development. HRM has not placed any controls on this development, and I would
Trevor,
argue,
I'd like to point out that you have 15 seconds left.
I would argue that they've actually pushed the developer towards the EBD connection because their original connection was at Capilano, which is a road reserve, which Thea has now stated for the public record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Are there any questions of clarification for Trevor? Not seeing any. Thank you very much for your input tonight, Trevor. We do appreciate that. The next speaker is Lisa Fry. Lisa, are you with us this evening? I saw you there. There you are.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Lisa. Go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I probably won't need that long because I understand the vote has already taken place, but I wanted to express my displeasure for tonight's meeting, starting with the fact that, as Mr. Cloney, who just spoke, just mentioned, we were completely misled as the public for the last meeting that took place on December 13th. I spoke at that meeting. I expressed my concerns, and I thought at that time my concerns were going to be heard and take part in the approval process of this. I feel that having that meeting in December and now the vote tonight, I truly don't believe that what I said or what any of the other speakers from our community said that night was taken to heart. It is completely forgotten in the minds of everyone who has attended this meeting, as it happened a month ago. I don't feel that you are taking the public into consideration in this vote, with the exception, of course, of District 1 Councillor Kathy Deagle-Gammon. It is absolutely going to negatively impact our community, increase traffic, increase the speed at which traffic enters our community. I'm at a complete loss of understanding for why it needs to connect to the community at all when there are multiple exits already for that community directly out onto Wingate Road, being the main one that is a major road intended to handle these amounts of traffic. Our community is not intended to handle these amounts of traffic. I'm completely disappointed in this, and I as well will be filing an appeal on this. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. And I don't see any requests for questions of clarification from Lisa. So again, thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you, Trevor, for your input this evening. I'm just looking for notes on my Councillor Deagle-Gammon. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment to say thank you to the 99 signatures to the petition, to those who sent letters, to those who made presentations, and to those who spoke tonight. The participation of the community is much appreciated. So thank you to everyone who has done a lion's share of really good work, and also to the planners that have worked on this as well. Really appreciate all the work that's gone on to this. Thank you. Look forward to the next chapter in this story.
Thank you very much, Councillor Deagle-Gammon. At this point, the public participation portion of the meeting has concluded, so we are moving forward. The date of the next meeting of Northwest Community Council is February 28th, 2021. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?